What's going on, guys? This is Brian from Quantum Motorworks, bringing another tutorial today. Got this 2004 Yamaha WR450F. It's a pretty cool bike. It's kind of like a YZ450F. It's like has the same engine pretty much. Chassis is almost the same, just has different suspension. A couple different chassis components that make the WR a little bit different than the YZF. But other than that, pretty much the same bike. It's a titanium 5-valve. These are pretty much the same, and a lot of the parts are interchangeable between the 03 and the 05 WR and YZ models. The main difference being is the engine cases here, obviously. This one's electric start, which is very nice versus, the traditional dirt bike is typically going to be a kickstart. And nonetheless, this one right here is fancy. Has both an electric start and a kickstart. So that's pretty cool. So the purpose of today's video is pretty much going to be doing a carburetor service. I'm going to pull out this carburetor. Supposedly the bike doesn't start, so we're going to charge the battery and pull out the carburetor, see if it's bad, clean it, and then install it, see if we can get this bike to go. Okay, sweet. All right, first things first, let's get this seat off. Gonna be 10mm bolts. A little tight. Pull it, slide it back. Okay. And here's your battery right here. Battery's, it's a little loose. Strap's not on, not a big deal. Let's see. So we need don't necessarily have to pull the gas tank, but sometimes it makes it just a little bit easier to kind of like see what's going on. And it's really not too much work either. So it's kind of optional. The way the bike's made, you really don't have to. To make this a little easier, there's basically a bolt right there. Take that one out. Radiator shroud bolt. If you come on the left side of the bike, pretty much the same thing. Take that one out. Switch it up here. It's at 8mm. Very nice. Okay. And of course, your fuel line, you're going to want to detach that. Get the fuel line off using a flathead screwdriver. Carefully pull up. These fuel lines right here kind of suck. They get like really tight on there. Good fuel line, I like them. Just when you put them on, they're kind of hard to get off. Damn, still doesn't want to come off. Try this. Damn. 2 seconds into this job and I already get my ass kicked by a fuel line. Let's try these. And there we go. Sometimes just gotta know which tool to use. Alright. There's also a little tank strap right here. Go ahead and pull that off. Boom. Gas tank. All right, cool. So pretty much got our carburetor right here. And this particular setup, you'll need like, I shouldn't need too many tools. We'll start with this 5mm hex or Allen. Oh, looks like it was kind of loose right there. I'm going to loosen up the clamp on the airbox tube. Then if you come to the right side of the bike and take a look down here, you should see this is the clamp that mounts to the intake manifold. You want to loosen this one up here. This is a 3mm. Okay, loosen those up. And then kind of pull back on this air tube. Well, actually, let's get some of this stuff out of the way. Disconnect the throttle position sensor. Take a flathead, press down that tab. Kind of pull, ooh, came out with the rubber. Go ahead and put that back in. All right, nice. Come back to that later when it's time to install it. And when you pull it out, that should be pretty much it. And then we'll just have to disconnect the choke. What is that, a choke? No, this is the choke plunger. This is the hot start cable. So let's see if we can, doesn't feel too hard, feels pretty pliable. So what we'll do is spray a little bit of oil. Just kind of help get it in there. Oh, well, the front came out. See carefully. Okay. All right, now would be a good time to remove the hot start plunger. It's going to be a 14mm. Sometimes if you can't get it with your open end wrench, sometimes it doesn't hurt to try to use like a pair of needle nose, but usually once you crack it loose, it's pretty easy to unscrew it by hand. Let's see, we may have to disconnect our throttle tube up top as well to get a little bit more. Might have enough with the cables to pull it through and disconnect it once we get it out. Dang, this clamp's still tight. Clamp's not even on. See if I can. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to loosen up the throttle tube there, so that's not a big deal. It's typically a Phillips. Come over here. Should be like a dust cover. Just kind of peel back this dust cover here. And then hopefully your hand guards or front brake isn't in the way, but usually you can like kind of loosen one up and then twist it. Do something like that. Can also peel back this one right here up top. Boom. Okay. Finish taking this one out. Okay, cool. All right, nice and dirty. Okay. And disconnect the throttle cable ends from the throttle tube. And pull them through the boot. And then now that should give us a little extra pull room here. All right, and the only thing that's really holding us back now is the drain hoses. You can just kind of pull those all out together. Yours might, if they're dry rotted or really stiff, it might be a little harder, but usually I'll kind of pull them out all at once like that. And then cool. And here's this, and then now we can go ahead and remove the cover here. I believe that's a 4mm. That's what that looks like. Okay, now let's remove this dust cover. All right, they can hold that off to the side. And then basically looks like that's a 10mm and that's a 12 or a 14. So it looks like that one's gonna be a 14. These ones right here should be 10s. So we'll loosen this one up. Boom, pull that one out and then get our 14mm. And with a little bit of slack in it, pull off the barrel. Boom, got one carburetor. Another thing I like to do is while we have it out, before I crack open the bowl on it, go ahead and that drain screw that's located right here. Say if you're looking on the left side of the bike, drain screw is gonna be on the left hand side. Let's kind of crack that. Oh, this thing's tight. Might be stripped out. So normally if yours wasn't stripped out, you use a 3mm. Mine's kind of stripped out, so I'm going to use a pair of pliers here. Oh, I'm already making a mess. This hoses are in the way. Okay. Okay, there we go. Boom. That should be easy. The other thing you could do too, not super conventional, but you could always loosen up this 17mm, the float bowl plug. It's a little bit larger. That gives you access to the pilot and main jets. Oh, fucking pissing gas all over the place. All right, just kind of let the fuel drain. Just kind of help mitigate making a mess all over the place. All right, cool. That should be enough fuel. Carburetor's out. And now's a good time to take a look into the intake port. And as you can see, it is very nasty. It looks like it's brown and yellow. So probably been sucking in a lot of dust and dirt. But as long as there isn't any really big, debris or anything, carbon deposits, it's okay. It is what it is. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and take a look. Oop, keep losing my phone cover. Let's go ahead and take a look at the airbox cover on the left-hand side. These are quarter turn D-rings here. Sometimes it shouldn't really pop out like that. It should be like a backing washer like this one right here. That one's missing, that one too. But it should pop out, give you access to your air filter. And this one looks like it's put on correctly. And it does feel like it has some oil on it, and it's in pretty clean condition. So that should be good for our carburetor service, not a big deal. And customer states that the top end had a full motor rebuild, And I couldn't really tell at first, but then I was looking at the head gasket right here, and it looks like they use copper seal on it. I mean, I do that on new head gaskets very rarely, maybe sometimes. I've used it on used head gaskets, but if somebody on an engine like this, or he took it to a shop and they reused the head gasket and just sprayed it down with copper seal, to me that's kind of shady. I mean, a head gasket on one of these, it's a multi-layered steel gasket. It's like the OEM one's probably like 65, 75 bucks or something crazy. At least 50 bucks, I would say 40, 50 bucks for a steel head gasket. So to cut costs, they probably just use copper seal, and it does work. It's okay on a high compression motor. You're probably taking a risk. On a lower compression motor, I've used it quite a bit and works pretty good. All right. Oh, time to put this in the carburetor area. What's going on? What am I missing? Hello from Russia. Enduro forever for you. For me, the best Harley Davidson night train. Oh, night train, huh? Those are pretty cool. Isn't that that's kind of like the V Rod, if I'm not mistaken? Is this a Yamaha? Yeah, this is yes sir, this is WR450F, and pretty much we're just doing a carburetor service on it. I don't know. We'll have to see if there's anything else, but just pulled out the carburetor on this one right here. Uh, it's your standard Kian flat side CR, flat CR carburetor. It's the top suggests flat CR, and these are a pretty cool carburetor. Probably should have shown what the bike sounded like. I got a chance to listen to it last night. Pretty much just cranks over. Doesn't even really want to fire up. I wonder what would happen if I try to throw some starter fluid into it right now. Probably fucking backfire. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Try to clean the carburetor first. Hopefully the engine's good and there's, compression, everything was put together correctly. Because if I do this carburetor service right now and, this bike doesn't turn on, it's kind of going to suck. Still going to want to get paid for spending my time pulling out the carburetor and putting it back in. Hold on, hooking this up. Here we go. Bam. Carburetor service. Look at that. Look at that carburetor service. Boom. All right, cool. So, all right, take that off. Let's look at this. Take off all these hoses while we're at it here. That's the thing I hate about the hoses. Once they start to get dry, they're kind of a bitch to take off. Take off this choke plunger here using our 14 millimeter. It's pretty simple to take off. Looks like it's good. Should be reusable. Want to make sure that the rubber contact surface is still there. Take a look inside, make sure there's nothing weird in there. We'll take our Phillips, and it's like for a coasting enricher. I think, yeah, these older carburetors do use a coasting enricher on the side. There should be a rubber diaphragm and a spring, possibly an O-ring. We'll take a look. Oh, boom, there it went. Nice. So that looked like it was kind of seized in there a little bit. So if that wasn't pumping, that would cause a lean condition. Basically, if you're traveling, say 30, 40 miles an hour, holding the throttle half to wide open, then all of a sudden you let go of the throttle, it's going to run lean and backfire and pop. And I think he didn't mention that. He was kind of saying it was lean, backfiring and popping. And from seeing the coasting enricher diaphragm stuck in the up position, that means it wasn't pulsating. That means it's not pulling any fuel from that circuit. That would cause it to run lean and pop while you're riding. So that kind of makes sense. Wouldn't necessarily prevent your bike from starting though. It would just, you would notice like a slight loss of power on the deacceleration. Oh, cool, that one came off pretty easy. Okay, try to get these freaking fuel line clips off without stabbing myself. All right, boom. Sometimes it's easier. These have like plastic nipples, so you kind of got to be careful. This one looks like it's pretty dry rotted. Yeah, it doesn't want to come off pretty easily. I'll come back to that. I mean, shit, maybe I should just leave it on. That's probably the easier thing to do. I'm just going to leave it on. How about that? All right, cool. And then throttle position sensor. Usually I like to mark these or scribe them. So I'm pretty sure it's not in its original position from the factory, but either way, say this was a brand new carburetor or had been worked on by a professional mechanic, usually they'll mark it with the paint pen. But that paint pen may come off, from gasoline and solvents over time, and especially, after you put in your parts washer tank. So what I'll do is I'll put a mechanical scribe in it by basically just assuming I'm not going to check, the resistance to make sure. From what I've learned, it doesn't really matter what position. If it's like right in the middle, usually bike's still going to work anyways, unless you're like really new what you're doing, like how to use the throttle to when you're on a track or something. You're probably not going to notice a difference in acceleration or snappiness with the position of this throttle position sensor here. So I'm going to go ahead and just scribe it. So mechanical scribe so you can see in the plastic. And then I put one in the metal so that way I just know where it's at. Any other mechanic that knows what they're doing, if they see that, they should be able to, kind of recognize that. And then usually it's a safety, but this one's not. This is going to be a 25 millimeter star. Okay, we'll go ahead and pull this out. Okay, O-ring's intact. Could use a little bit of grease. That's fine. Put that off to the side. You don't want that going in your hypersonic parts washer being fully submerged. It's okay to brush it off, but you don't want to submerge that sensor. It's not fully sealed, and it'll take off water and you'll damage the contacts inside. It is made to get wet, but not to be fully submerged. And holy cow, these are tight. And that's what this is for. These are 3 millimeters right here. Crack those loose. We use our T-handle to make things a little bit quicker. And that's going to give you access to your flat slide here, and you can remove the top of the jet needle with a 5 millimeter. These are, oh, actually I lied. Using a 4 millimeter. And it's going to take off basically a cap. Now I noticed when the customer dropped off his bike, when I tried twisting the throttle, it was stuck, and what it felt like, and when oh, there it goes. It felt like the jet needle. What happens is when fuel sits inside the carburetor float for a while and guns up that main jet, the jet needle that's inside will actually get stuck, and sometimes the throttle won't even move. Yeah, that's kind of stuck in there. Let me see if I can get that out with some needles here. No? Aha! There it is, a jet needle. Put that right into your vein. And you can see how the tip, it's really dirty. Has like ethanol on it. So I'm assuming this bowl is going to be pretty dirty in here. And we'll see. We'll go ahead and check if this on the flats on the slide here, if this O-ring on the intake side isn't intact, it'll cause an irregular idle. The bike just actually won't even, sometimes it won't run right or it just won't idle correctly. Um, that's weird. Oh, what's this thing doing? Doesn't want to go in? What did I break it? Shouldn't have. What happened? They usually don't come out like that. That's weird that I would actually do that while this arm is still on. The hell's it hitting? Yeah. Oh, wait, is it getting stuck on that? There it goes. The accelerator pump. It's probably gummed up in there too. Let's take a look. So that's going to be Phillips screws also. So yeah, when carburetors are gummed up, the mechanical features of them start to suffer. Start to do all sorts of weird stuff. Things don't operate correctly and run into little problems. And another thing too I like to do is loosen up that 17 millimeter. Go ahead and crack this loose. Oh, gotta do it for the YouTube. Check out this nut loosening action right here. Oh yeah. Oh, still tight. So yeah, guys, try to make it a little interesting. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat right now because I'm busy, but I'm trying to make this a little bit more interactive. GoPro, what I'm working on. Ooh, that's nasty and corroded. That might be bad, actually. I wonder what the inside looks like. Okay. See what this pilot mixture screw was at. It's kind of sees two. So there's 1, 2, 2.5, almost 3, like 2 3/4. It's about right. Maybe a little on the rich side. Let's see what the carburetor looks like. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a nice and pretty on the inside. Oh, it's making a mess. Everything's so tight. Let's see. Oh, it probably has to do with this O-ring being. Oh, they just packed it full of grease. Is it missing the parts? Oh, that's why it's missing parts on the inside. So they just packed it full of grease. Yep, grease fixes everything. If you're missing parts, fuck it. Just put some packet full of grease. And not just any grease too, not waterproof grease, packet full of bacon grease. That's what I would do. And half my customers wouldn't even know it. I'll put bacon grease inside of, their carburetor or whatever. I'm just ranting. That's going to be taken out of the GoPro footage, so. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, nice and dirty. The accelerator pump. That should be good. Looks like he's going to need some new O-rings. These O-rings are shot, so not a big deal. We got more O-rings in there. Oh, wow. This one's like, did they super glue this one? This one's been like super glued. Interesting. Ah, there we go. Yeah, shoot. I wouldn't doubt it. This thing needs a mid-body kit too. I bet these O-rings on the inside are freaking junk. Probably call him and tell him. Or, it's his option if customer wants to ride his bike ASAP and doesn't want to pay extra in labor for, separating the body and putting a rebuild kit in it. We can go ahead and bypass that. I think that was, so that's going to be that's the main air jet right here. So this is the jet that meters the air that goes into the carburetor that emulsifies on the main fuel circuit. You can kind of tune a bike. Usually, like when you if you put jump a lot in the main jet size, you typically want to increase the air jet to compensate, or you won't get enough air to the fuel and it'll kind of run too rich and bog out. Let's see. All right, finished taking off the float bowl. Okay. All right, boom. Take those off. Ooh, pretty nasty. Looks like this is reusable. Should kind of almost needs a carburetor rebuild kit. Yikes. Well, I mean, it is what it is. It's pretty bad. Let's take out this one. I believe this is the pilot jet. No, this is the starter jet. Where'd that one go? Lost it. No. Actually, it didn't come out. It's still in there. There it goes. Oh, no. There's the spring from the pilot mixture screw. Huh. That was kind of felt weird. That was the pilot jet. Oh, there they go. So this is the pilot jet for the pilot fuel circuit. I believe this is a starter. No, starter jet's right there. So this is like a mid jet right here. I forget exactly, intermediate jet, if I'm not mistaken. Or that could be for, I don't know. Can't remember exactly. I'd have to look at it. It's either one or the other, but I'm pretty sure that's a starter jet right there. A leak jet, if I'm not mistaken. I could have it confused. It's been a while since I've looked at the internal fuel circuitry of a FCR carburetor. Okay. Go ahead and push out the float valve pin. Boom. Go to our float. Put that off to the side. And we're going to take off the main jet. It looks like it's pretty chewed up. I want to say the main should be a 6mm. And then the jet needle holder should be an 8mm. Use an 8mm extended. Okay, this is the jet needle holder. Pretty dirty. Looks like it's had a little bit of tooling marks on it. Fuel baffle. And that's pretty much it. Oh, it looks like it's had the mid-body replaced at some point. Yeah, I'm going to have to recommend, there's no way. I can't take a risk on that. So the mid-body is basically, if you guys have ever worked on an FCR carburetor before, a mid-body is basically, there's a set of gaskets on between this half, the upper and the lower part where the fuel bowl attaches to, and there's a bunch of gaskets in there. And from judging by the hardware, how it's stripped out and been replaced with Phillips and they're not Allen, that tells me that this carburetor has been gaffed with. So I can't take a risk. I'm going to have to recommend pretty much a full basic carburetor rebuild and a mid-body kit, and then additional labor and then hopefully I can get those screws out. They're not stripped. They look like they're kind of stripped out, so I'm gonna have to give the customer a call, give him his options before I move on with this, because he was under the impression it might just be this or that, but from looking at it, it looks like it's gonna need a little bit more. So we go ahead and put this on standby momentarily. Go ahead and give the customer a call and see what he wants to do. I need to look up some prices of parts, get some ETAs, figure it out. Okay, cool. I think it's time for a soda. How old is this bike? This one right here, this is a 2004. They made these Yamahas here from, I believe, 2003, this style from 2003 to 2005, and then they switched them up from the steel frame to the aluminum frame. Use a slightly similar engine, and then they switched completely from the titanium 5 valve to a 4 valve. Uh, do you know Russian motorcycle Ural? No, can't say I do. Haven't heard of them. Don't really watch too many other motorcycle guys. I watch like Cycle Cruiser and Partzilla, some of their live streams that they do on parts and giveaways and stuff. I think it's kind of interesting. For the most part, no, not really watching too many other riders. Um, most of the stuff that I like to post, most other enthusiasts aren't posting this kind of stuff online. So, yep. All right. So hang tight, guys. I'm going to take a break, and if I get authorization, I will come right back.